Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. Hope you guys are waking up and having a wonderful start to your day, and I hope everyone's having a great beginning to their new weekend out there so far. Unfortunately, there is a lot to talk about once again in regards to severe weather, and this is going to be the big topic for the foreseeable future. And also, unfortunately, yesterday's event did materialize in one of these higher end scenarios, the moderate risk level 4 out of 5. Certainly verified. We had several tornadoes that lasted well into the nighttime hours, including one that it was basically a long-lasting supercell that started in Missouri and went pretty much all the way through southern Kentucky and just dropped a tornado on and off. Just did a lot of damage to many areas, many towns, and the southern sections of Kentucky. So we are praying for you folks, for anybody impacted. Kentucky obviously wasn't the only state. There was many other states too. Indiana, portions of Illinois got hit pretty hard also. So I hope everyone is okay this morning, but we are certainly praying for you folks. And we're praying for everybody that is going to have to deal with severe weather chances for the foreseeable future. And many areas are. Some of the same regions will have a multi-day threat of severe weather. So we're here to talk about that, get very detailed. Our primary focus will be today into tonight. Severe weather threat, we'll speak on that first. And then we'll speak on all the days to come. And in the middle of all that, we'll talk about the rest of the country also as far as today's weather. But timestamps will be littered throughout the video. Take advantage of them. If you're not worried about what's going to happen today, maybe more so tomorrow into the next day, there's timestamps up for all of that. If you're more so just worried about today, then there's a timestamp up for that also. Just utilize those timestamps. They're definitely there to help you folks out. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. We'll have a Bible devotion at the very end of the video if you're interested in that. Let's get rocking and rolling. So this is current conditions, and just want to start this video off by showing you guys this because it's important on what could happen later on this morning into the pretty much the PM hours. So we continue to have a line of storms that's scraping across areas of the deep south, Alabama, Mississippi. As of right now, there's no severe thunderstorm warnings on any of this energy right now in the deep south. We did have a few tornado warnings across the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee this morning. I was looking at that. I was watching a storm that was impacting areas of southwestern VA. But all this action pretty much that has moved east of the Appalachian Mountains or either down into the deep south states is beginning to weaken. We also have energy up here in interior sections of New England. We actually have a severe thunderstorm warning right now moving across the Tug Hill Plateau. It'll eventually move across northern sections of New York State. But I'm watching for the intensification of this energy up here in New England for later on this morning into this afternoon. So the middle of the country is pretty quiet, but this is the area of the country here into Texas, Oklahoma that could begin to light up later on this afternoon to this evening with very strong to severe storms. Some energy crossing over areas of the western U.S. This is our next storm system of interest. That's going to bring a multi-day severe weather threat across the middle of the country. And we just have a chilly, even cold rain up here in areas of the Great Lakes region. Totally different air masses moved into the upper Midwest compared to what we've seen a couple days ago. So this is current conditions. Now a broad look at today's Storm Prediction Center outlook. We do have a slight risk. We're going to break down the Northeast also because I think we can get some powerful storms up in the Northeast today. But level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather up here. Marginal risk extends around that Boston and New York City almost all the way up to Rochester. And we do have a marginal risk that kind of stretches across the deep south into the southern sections of South Carolina. But I just think the storm coverage in this area, besides what's going on right now, it's not going to be super widespread, especially the further east you get. But this is the big area today. Enhanced risk in northern Texas, slight risk goes all the way up into southern Kansas, all the way back down to Arkansas, and then into northern Louisiana, all the way down into southwestern and southern areas of Texas. So let's go on and break that down. Let's spend some time on this. So here's a closer up look. An enhanced risk right here for northern into northeastern Texas. Level 3 out of 5 includes the Dallas-Fort Worth area and everywhere surrounding the city region right here. And then we got the slight risk that goes all the way up into southern sections of Kansas, all the way back into central Arkansas, all the way down to northern Louisiana, and then stretches all the way down into southwestern areas and southern regions of Texas. So what's really driving this today? Well, this is the tornado outlook. And listen, I'm making this video around 7 to 7:30 Eastern time. The Storm Prediction Center will drop another update here in the next hour and a half, 2 hours. But right now, we just have a 5% risk of a tornado. So no 10% hatch risk or anything like that. As of right this second in the brown, that is a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location a day. The green area is a 2% risk. Could we get an uptrend to a 10% risk of a tornado today? Absolutely. Absolutely. And if it happens, it'll certainly happen somewhere in this brown area right here. It'll be like inside of it. So right now, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, obviously a higher populated area in the south central U.S., you're right in the epicenter of today's worst severe weather threat. Now, the hail threat is definitely the biggest risk for today. We could have very large hail, definitely a higher end thermodynamic environment, meaning it'll be very humid. It'll be very hot today, and lapse rate supports, cooler air loft supports a very large hail. There's just not a ton of flow in the atmosphere. That's why your tornado threat isn't even compared to yesterday's tornado threat. But if you live in that red area, 30% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. The yellow area is a 15% risk of that. And then that black outline region you see around pretty much the red 30% and a good chunk of the yellow 15% risk. So if you live in this black outline area, Dallas-Fort Worth, over to Little Rock, up to Oklahoma City, all the way up to Woodard, you guys have a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. Remember, that's not added on to the 15 or 30% to make a different number. That's its own risk category. So, and then there is a risk of damaging winds, but not as high today. But listen, this could change. It could go up another category. But right now, in the yellow region, that is a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. So the first state we'll break down, and then we'll be in two different segments here, is Texas. I do want to show some love to southwestern sections of this state, even though the storm coverage won't be super widespread today. But this is starting around lunchtime. This is around 1 p.m., 2 p.m. We could get some storms way down here in southwestern areas of the state. And then we get to 3 p.m. We see some storms south of San Angelo around Abilene. And then this is 4 p.m. This is 5 p.m. And then most of the action's beginning to move into the central portion of Texas. But I did want to show you this. Some storms are possible. And in these areas, these smaller towns out here in western Texas, San Angelo, Abilene could very well get hit by a strong to severe storm. Could produce very large hail. Sometimes these storms can pop off a little bit further west than what's predicted by this model guidance. But by the time we're into 8 p.m., it looks like it gets quiet. Anything later tonight, not really. So I do just want to show you that, even though it's not super widespread. But let's start off around 1 p.m. this afternoon here in the highlighted severe weather risk zone. So Dallas-Fort Worth area right here in the middle of your screen. 1 p.m., 2 p.m. time frames up here if I forget to mention it. This is 3 p.m. There's that storm around Abilene potentially, and it could very well be on San Angelo or up to Wichita Falls. And then we get to 4 p.m., then we get to 5. This is when we can have explosive, powerful thunderstorm development. And like I said, thermodynamic environment in this area is definitely higher end. So you see these splotches of purple, white, things like that. It's wherever these storms form, if you get hit by one of them, might not produce a tornado, but the threat of very large hail is high. So take the hail threat serious with this, guys. I mean, and obviously we don't know if there's going to be a storm right on top of Weatherford at 5 p.m., but just note that it looks like this is where the storms are going to form, and then they'll drift eastward in general. And then 6 p.m., big time storms begin to hit the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I do think a few tornadoes are going to be produced by these storms today. See these storms way down here southwest of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And this is 7 p.m. Places like Sherman show to be getting hit. Maybe Tyler's getting hit. And watch out, Mary. Mary's a loyal viewer here in Northeast Texas. It could get pretty dicey in this area 7, 8, 9 p.m. this afternoon to this evening. And it just looks like the Dallas-Fort Worth area has a multi-hour period of severe weather. And then look at this other storm that tries to form down here near Waco. See that circle coming off of? This is where this potentially could produce a stronger updraft, maybe a rotating updraft, and certainly a tornado could be produced by this. But a lot of active weather at this point impacting far northeast Texas, Tyler up to Texarkana, Paris, everybody in between. This is 10 p.m. This is 11 p.m. Still storms ongoing. This is midnight. This is 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and things begin to simmer down at this point. But guys, definitely some powerful storms in this area, really starting around early to mid-afternoon, then moving east. So here's kind of a quick timeline of this one more time, since this is the highlight area. 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., moving right towards the Dallas-Fort Worth area and everybody in between and around. This is 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight. So we go on and move it into Louisiana. You guys are getting a little bit of storm activity in the northern parishes right now. This will begin to diminish as we get into about lunchtime. Could still have some storms around. In fact, maybe an outflow boundary gets left around in this area. This could fire up some more storms. Morning convection can do that. And I honestly think that's what caused such a higher environment in southern Kentucky last night for tornadoes. I think it's Somerset. That's how you pronounce it. Anyways, that town was really hit hard last night. Probably one of the hardest hit areas. But anyways, we get into 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. It's still pretty quiet in Louisiana, but 8 p.m., 9 p.m., this is when I really would start to watch out in the far northwestern corner of the state. This is 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and this is when the northwestern parishes and northern parishes of Louisiana could begin to get hit pretty hard, and I could see a tornado threat being in this area. Right now, just a 2% risk, but if you live in the northern parishes of Louisiana, watch out late this evening into the overnight hours for a line of storms that will sweep through in this area. Now, let's go on and bump it back up to Oklahoma. This is 3 p.m., 4 p.m., could have a powerful storm just north of the Red River here in southern Oklahoma. This could produce all hazards. This is 6 p.m. Check out that storm between Elk City and like Enid up here. McAllister shows some storm activity in that area. This is 7 p.m. I'd watch some storms in this region. Woodard, you got a cell right here trying to produce a more intense updraft, potentially rotating. Very possible. This is 8 p.m. Look near Stillwater. Look at the cell right here. I'm not, like I said, this is just simulated model guidance. Doesn't mean this is exactly what's going to happen, but could have a stronger to severe cell up there. And, on this particular run, guys, all this action misses Oklahoma. And there's going to be some areas in Oklahoma today that don't even get a drop of rain, even though you got a risk of severe weather. But shows a cluster of storms around 10 p.m. hitting like around Tulsa to Stillwater, Bartlesville. So we have to watch out for that, and then some of this action will begin to move into areas of Arkansas. So very scattered and smothered, if you will, Waffle House reference, of convection in Oklahoma today. Not everybody's going to see it, but the people who do, it could be an all hazards type setup. So Arkansas today, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., maybe some storms begin to fire in the southwestern areas of the state. This is 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Looks like a stronger complex of storms begins to move into the southwestern corner of the state. So have to watch for some sort of MCS, mesoscale convective system that could sweep across just the southern counties. And then we could have some stronger to severe storms around midnight that sneak into the northwest counties of Arkansas. But Little Rock, Russellville, and this particular model run didn't show a whole lot. But listen, I'll say this multiple times in video when breaking down severe weather. This is just simulated model guidance. It's going to be wrong in areas. We could have widespread strong to severe storms in Fort Smith down to Russellville down to Little Rock. This particular model run doesn't show it. The environment will certainly support it there too. So, and then up here in Kansas, I would just watch the southern sections of the state. This is around 8 p.m. Around Wichita, points south, could have some supercells that try to sneak into those areas. Watch out near Pittsburgh down there. And the southeastern sections of the state, 11 p.m., midnight. But, in general, just watch kind of Hutchinson, Wichita, over near to Joplin, Missouri. These areas right in here, just watch out later this evening into the overnight hours for some strong and severe storms. Last state we'll break down individually here is Missouri. Pretty quiet through the daytime hours, but I do think as we get into about 9, 10, 11 p.m. tonight, Joplin, watch out. Even Springfield for some strong to severe storms that will sneak out of portions of Kansas and Oklahoma and move into your area later tonight. And these storms could, cause a ruckus, maybe some gusty winds, some large hail. I don't think they'll be too terribly bad, but hopefully I don't bite my tongue there. So, but the rest of the convection will trail off across southern areas of Missouri through the overnight hours all the way through tomorrow morning. But this is the updraft Felicity swath, and this indicates where our stronger updrafts are going to be, and most likely that means where our more powerful storm systems are going to be that could produce all hazards. So that's obviously down here, right where they have the enhanced risk area. You see northern, northeastern Texas, and this is just one model run, but this isn't, like I said, always going to tell us exactly what the stuff's going to be. It does pick up on one nasty cell up here in north central Oklahoma, north of Oklahoma City. So, watch for an isolated cluster of storms up here. But listen, even though it doesn't show anything, say in this area of Oklahoma or this area of Arkansas, that does not mean that nothing's going to happen there. So we could very well get storms. So just don't hyper focus on this stuff. This is just guidance. So I do want to mention the Northeast, my friends up here in New England. There is a slight risk. Robin, loyal viewer here, and southern Vermont, you have a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather now into the western half of Mass, into far northwestern Connecticut, and the Adirondacks all the way down to Albany, and the valley here, all the way up to the Canadian-New York border, and then sections of southwestern, western areas of New Hampshire. Level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Marginal risk goes all the way down to Boston, New York City, Long Island, all the way back to Syracuse, then all the way back to the New Hampshire-Maine state line. Tornado threat is there. I could see a bump up to a 5% risk. But right now, I'm sorry, get my words all mixed up here. Right now, the green, just a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. And then the wind threat, you have a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then the hail threat. Wind and hail is what's driving the slight risk right now. But hail threat, and that yellow area, that is a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. So here's just a closer look. Burlington, Montpelier, down to Bennington, Springfield, Albany, all the Adirondacks. And we have, a line of storms moving through these areas right here already. So just a closer look at a couple areas. A-strip model picking up on that line of storms that's rumbling through the northern areas of New York. Okay, it does show some convection. This is getting towards 10 a.m., 11 a.m. this morning. Those storms could try to intensify as they move into northern and northeastern areas of New York and then eventually into Vermont. And then we get into lunchtime today. Look at those storms going through Vermont. They could be powerful. They look very strong. That's around lunchtime. Look at this line of storms moving through the state of Vermont. We're getting to 1 p.m., 2 p.m. So this is when additional convection could form. Storm activity. Rochester could get hit by another line of strong to severe storms. More pop-up thunderstorms could form in the Adirondacks and Tuck-Hill Plateau of New York. 3 p.m., 4 p.m. What you notice here is just clusters of storms everywhere. This makes this area pretty hard to figure out just because there's no concrete area of storms that we can really speak on. But we got another line of storms moving through Watertown, Syracuse. We got storms up near Burlington again after maybe getting hit by storms several hours prior. Storms over Hanover. And then we get into 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., just scattered storms. 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11, midnight. Things should calm down after that. Closer look at the New York City to Boston corridor. Not a whole lot going on through early afternoon. 5 p.m., 6 p.m., some scattered downpour storms could develop in southern New York, could drift into southern New England. And, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., just isolated scattered thunderstorms across southern New England down to Long Island. These storms don't look too intense based off this model guidance, but they very well could be strong and severe. But overall, coverage not as widespread, and the intensity is probably not as strong in this area. Now, Maine, the rest of Vermont and New Hampshire, starting off around lunchtime, there is that line of storms going towards New Hampshire, going through Vermont. This storm's, I'm just having trouble speaking now. I think I've just talked so much over the last few days. It's like we were slow for like several weeks, and I just went from full steam ahead, and it's like my mouth is trying to catch up with all the words I'm trying to speak in a 30 to 45 minute period. But I tell you guys, sometimes my brain just is just ahead of my talking sometimes. But northern areas of New Hampshire could get hit by a line of storms early this afternoon, and the rest of this energy could kind of go up towards western and northern Maine, and then we could get some intense storms around 5 p.m. Like, look at this cell right here in Vermont and New Hampshire. This looks like one that, if there's any storms that's going to produce a tornado, that looks to be the one. But like I said, just simulated model guidance. We don't know if that's exactly what the storm is going to be. 6 p.m., 7 p.m. All I can tell you is we're going to have widespread storm coverage in Vermont, New Hampshire, northern New York. And we just have to watch to see how these storms really hang together here as they move into western Maine. But look at those storms trying to get more intense here around 9 p.m. late this evening in central to southern New Hampshire. I think the possibility is there for that. And it just looks like eventually all this energy begins to weaken in time. But be careful in these areas, kind of looking at the updraft velocity swath, but looking at let's look at this area. It does pick up on those stronger cells, folks. So we definitely need to watch out for some isolated supercells of Vermont, New Hampshire, even eastern areas of New York. If there's going to be a tornado, I'd watch out for this region here. So moving forward here, talking about the rest of the country, I know we do have a marginal risk of severe weather across areas of the deep south and the southeast, but really what's happening today, if you remember a couple days ago, we had even a slight risk all the way down into the PD of South Carolina. What's happening is the leftover energy moving over the mountains and moving into the southeast right now is going to create a lot of cloud cover. This is going to allow for the atmosphere to not really become super unstable, even though it's going to get hot and humid. But we could get some storms into like southwestern Georgia, southeastern Alabama this afternoon. And listen, the model guidance could be wrong. It was very wrong, about some action across Virginia yesterday that ended up unfolding, but could get some storms into the eastern Carolina, southern areas of Georgia eventually. But this evening we could get some pop-up thunderstorms in southern Alabama and Mississippi, but the southeast is pretty quiet in general, except just a cluster of storms that could develop here in southern Alabama. And then we just have to watch eventually what comes out of Arkansas and Louisiana. By the time we wake up tomorrow morning, could have some storms around Tuscaloosa over to Birmingham, something like that. And then we'll skip the Northeast and the South Central U.S. since we just broke them down, and we'll go right to the North Central U.S. Folks, we're just going to have an annoyingly chilly, cold day, unless you just like a cold May day. I like a cold October, November, December day, but not so much a cold day in May. That's just terrible in my opinion. But just a lot of return flow. So this afternoon, showers, some almost looks like some lake effect rain. Who knows? Maybe we might mix with a flurry or two up here in the northern areas of Minnesota, areas that got into the 90s a few days ago. Absolutely just unreal type stuff here. But return flow is just going to bring pesky showers across the UP, lower Michigan, areas of Wisconsin. And look at the snow trying to fall, and potentially that could fall May 18th in the northeastern areas of Minnesota later tonight. Let's see if that actually happens. That'll be wild stuff. And I think tomorrow will be another day like today. But anyways, getting into the western U.S., a lot of energy crossing over the Rockies. This is this afternoon. We could have showers and storms across Idaho, Utah, maybe eastern Oregon, but just rounds of heavy rain. Got to get really high up to get any snow out of this, but it's very possible. And we could just get a big push of moisture into Salt Lake City, up into Idaho, Montana, and then by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, we begin another severe weather day. But temperatures warm into the northeast, pocket of cooler air in Maine, southeast, 80s and 90s, just a little bit more cloud cover. Brutally hot in Florida, 90s, high humidity. Southern areas of the deep south could get into the 70s and 80s and 90s. Ohio Valley, a much cooler day as stable air moves in, 60s and 70s. You'll have some relief, able to clean up and just kind of get it together. from what y'all just dealt with yesterday. But folks, it's going to be cold up here in Minnesota, areas of the Dakotas, down into Wisconsin, Iowa. 30s maybe just for highs, folks. 40s and 50s though. Big time boundary across the plains between cool, cold air and more moist and unstable, warm, hot, and humid air. You can see those storms exploding in a very hot air mass down here in Texas, and that's why you have these kind of pockets of cooler air in Texas. So this is really what's going to fuel a thermodynamic environment that's going to support just explosive thunderstorms down here today. A little bit cooler in the northwest, just due to cloud cover and just shower activity and just energy moving over. So let's go on and move into tomorrow's severe weather threat. So we have an enhanced risk. Kansas is the epicenter state of this. It's right over central to east central Kansas, down into northern areas of Oklahoma. Level 3 out of 5 risk of severe weather. This could tweak a little bit, could expand maybe a little bit more into Missouri, maybe a little bit further north into Nebraska. And I could definitely see expanding down into like central Oklahoma. There's a slight risk that goes all the way up into northeastern Colorado, into central Nebraska, all the way back into central areas of Missouri, all the way back over to Dodge City, and includes a good chunk of Oklahoma into northwestern Arkansas and northern Texas. But right now, I think an enhanced risk serves this pretty well, but I could see this bumping up to a moderate risk also. But this is tomorrow's severe weather Storm Prediction Center outlook. Now, the tornado threat, folks, we'll start to zoom into this outlook here. There's a 10% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. 10% risk of that tornado would be in a strong EF2 or higher tornado. Wichita, you're right in the middle of this. This goes down just about Bartlesville, goes over to Emporia, all the way up into, say, Russell, Kansas, and just about all the way down to Stillwater, Oklahoma. But I could see this expanding right now. 10% risk of a strong tornado within 25 miles in a given location in that yellow hatched area with the black dash that's going in between it. There's a large, huge 5% risk area in the brown of a tornado. Kansas City up the North Platte, Grand Island, Kearney, Lincoln, all the way down to the Wichita Falls area, Oklahoma City, Fort Smith, all the way over to Springfield, Columbia. I've already mentioned Kansas City, Joplin, Fayetteville, 5% risk of a tornado. And if you live in that green area, that's a 2% risk. And this is, there's going to be a risk of strong tornadoes. Again, the tornado threat it's higher than today's tornado threat, in my opinion. But I don't know if it'll be quite as high as yesterday's tornado threat, but we'll have to see. Things could change. Wind threat, as of now, we just have a 15% risk across a pretty large area of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in a given location. So 50 to 55 to 60 miles per hour. Yeah. So I'm getting my wording mixed up here, but yeah, risk of 55, 60 mile per hour winds in this area within 25 miles in a given location. Hail threats is going to be significant. So red area, same area that we have a higher end tornado threat. Red area, that is a 30% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, Topeka down to Wichita. And then also a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. There's going to be a very large hail threat tomorrow with these supercells that form in this area. And then the yellow area, that is a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. In the black outline region, which includes, like I said, all of that red area, a good chunk of the yellow area, you have that 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. I already mentioned that for the red region. So, I will say this also. There is a marginal risk that extends all the way down to portions of southern South Carolina, Georgia, etc. We could have some sort of line of storms, MCS, that could form somewhere in this area. This could actually drive an upgrade to a slight risk in certain areas, and maybe Alabama and Georgia. The Storm Prediction Center actually mentions that. But, folks, already a level 3 out of 5 risk for tomorrow's severe weather threat for Sunday. So this is for Sunday. Now, talking about how these storms could, form, behave, act tomorrow, and the timing, things like that, we'll be able to zoom into this a little bit more, probably in tonight's video, into tomorrow morning's video. But this is starting off tomorrow morning, okay, Sunday morning. We could already have a supercell or some clusters of storms in southern Oklahoma. But as we start to get to about midday, that action could move into Arkansas. Nothing really going on in Kansas, Nebraska yet. And we take it to about the afternoon hours. We're starting to see scattered storms developing into Oklahoma. These could be strong to severe right off the dot. And then we start to get later in the afternoon. This is when we get explosive thunderstorm development in central to east central Kansas. And I would watch out for an isolated higher tornado threat also in southwestern areas of Nebraska. Surface low will begin to try to develop. This will enhance the climatic environment up here, and you might get an upgrade to a 10% risk of a tornado up here. You see these cells developing? That has the look of some rotating thunderstorms, some tornado-producing supercells. So you see just how these storms develop very quickly later in the afternoon in Kansas, and then they quickly kind of develop into just kind of a congealed area of thunderstorms. So, honestly, if I was a storm chaser in this area, for example, I would definitely play the Nebraska card just because this action will quickly probably go into a more congealed look. But if you live in central Kansas and the eastern Kansas, this could be an all hazards type deal. And you got some nasty looking storms in northeastern Oklahoma, also clusters of storms into Arkansas, still storms down here in southeastern areas of Oklahoma. But I would really watch these. If you live in southern to southwestern areas of Nebraska, be careful of these. And listen, these storms could form. That's why there is a risk of severe weather in northeastern Colorado. They could form in this area and then drift into Nebraska. But this particular model run has these storms really popping off once they get into Nebraska. And then we start to get later in the evening. Look at this powerful cell right in the middle of Nebraska. A lot of congealed thunderstorm and heavy rain activity in this region. And then we start to get all the way into the middle of the night tomorrow night. And just a lot of activity ongoing all the way up into Nebraska. A lot of storm activity into eastern Kansas, into the southern half and northern areas of Arkansas and southern Missouri. And then we start to enter Monday's severe weather threat. So we'll zoom into each individual state in the next video. Typically keep those videos when we zoom into the states for that severe weather event for the night of the severe weather event or the morning of. But the ingredients coming together, what's going to happen tomorrow is this is your low-level jet, winds at 850 millibars, about a mile above your head in this region. Is our trough is going to move into the area, short wave and response, deepening surface low. This will really drive a stout southerly flow and increase wind shear. Low-level wind shear that's going to increase that tornado threat. So here it comes. We get into the afternoon hours, and you see this purple area. That's about a 35 to 45 knots low-level jet. Winds coming out the south here, and then they get a little bit more veered up here, almost coming out of the southeast. So a lot of wind flow in the low levels of the atmosphere, wind shear that's going to support severe weather, and this will do nothing but increase into the overnight hours. In fact, we'll get a raging 50 to 60 knot low-level jet over areas of Oklahoma all the way up into the Dakotas as we get into late tomorrow night. And this will be overlapping a very moist environment, guys. I mean, it's the same stuff we talk about leading up to severe weather days as the prior days we were speaking on throughout the week. You look at moisture levels, and this is, I think I'm a little bit too far ahead here. Let's go into, a little bit too far ahead. I'm glad I called that. Always hate when I talk about the wrong day. There's so many days, guys. If I do call Monday, Sunday, or Sunday, Monday, it's not intentional. Hopefully you know what day I'm talking about. But this is Sunday, and same thing, and pivotal weather's being a little finicky here. So this is about mid to early afternoon tomorrow. We got very moist air building into the region. Not quite in place up into southern Nebraska yet, but watch how it builds into the region. Man, would you please get going for me? All right, come on now. 21Z, tomorrow afternoon. You see how the dew points are beginning to surge higher up into southwestern sections of Nebraska, already climbing to the 60s. A deep pool of moisture into Oklahoma, dew points in the 70s. These storms love this deeper moisture, dew points in the 60s and 70s. And as we get into tomorrow evening, the higher end moisture levels at the surface begin to surge even further north. So by the time you're into the middle of the night tomorrow night, dew points are getting all the way into the 60s, all the way up into southern areas of Nebraska. So a broad, moist sector surging north in response to a surface low ejecting northeast across the plains, which is yanking in that southerly flow. in response, it pulls up a lot of moisture from the south. And then your Cape levels, make sure we're the right day. We are Sunday morning. Tomorrow morning, about mid-morning, Cape levels are already over 3,000 joules per kilogram mixed layer Cape. So tons of fuel in the atmosphere already tomorrow morning. And then explodes about mid to early afternoon. When we get Cape levels, I think they'll try to push 5,000 joules per kilogram, just rocket fuel in the atmosphere. And this spikes all the way up to Nebraska. But even 1,000 joules per kilogram will get the job done when you already have a supportive kinematic wind environment. But certainly going to have a lot of fuel in the air mass in this area. So now getting into so many days, it's easy to get them mixed up. This is Monday's severe weather threat and is larger and it shifts a little bit further east. So for Missouri, you guys, good chunk of Missouri, enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5. Kansas City, Columbia down to Springfield. The northwestern sections of Arkansas, enhanced risk. Fayetteville, Fort Smith. And then this gets into Oklahoma, eastern to central Oklahoma, enhanced risk. All the way down to northern areas of Texas, enhanced risk. Stops just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And Kansas included, Topeka, Wichita, points east. Level 3 out of 5 risk of severe weather in this area. Slight risk goes all the way up into central Iowa, all the way up into Nebraska, all the way over into western Illinois, all the way into central Arkansas, all the way down into the heart of Texas. Now, at day 3, the only thing that we know is if you live in that red area, that is a 30% risk of severe weather, of any severe weather. It could be tornadoes, damaging winds, large hail. Now, it's going to take one heck of a severe weather event to be a 30% risk of tornadoes, but you get what I'm saying. Right now, 30% risk of severe weather, 10% risk of that severe weather being significant within 25 miles in a given location. And then, as y'all know, yellow area is a 15% risk of severe weather. And same thing. If you live in the black outline area, there is a 10% risk of significant severe weather. And I mean, that's places from Dallas-Fort Worth all the way up to Omaha, all the way back over to almost Hayes, all the way east into Quincy, stops just west of St. Louis. So Monday's going to be a big severe weather threat, folks. I think that there's some questions for Monday and Tuesday to figure out. And speaking of Tuesday, they have an enhanced risk up now for Tuesday. So, the outlook changes once you get past 3 a little bit. All we know is in that, that orange area, Nashville, down to Florence, Huntsville, stops just north of Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, goes all the way down to Greenwood, Columbus, goes all the way to pretty much Memphis. In this orange area, folks, that's an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5 risk of severe weather for day 4 for Tuesday. And then in the yellow area, all the way up into central Indiana and Illinois, all the way back over to eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, northwestern Georgia, central Alabama, central Mississippi, and gets all the way back into northern Louisiana, central Arkansas, southeast Missouri. That yellow area is a 15% risk of severe weather within 25 miles in a given location. And listen, just to speak on both days as far as the environment, this is the European, which I think does a really good job on showing where the storms could be. It's not going to show the structure of the storms and if it's going to be discrete, what and things like that. It's not going to be pretty with that, but it could tell us and give us a good idea where storms could be. This is for around Monday afternoon. Shows a cluster of storms in Kentucky already, even down to Tennessee. Shows a cluster of storms up into Missouri. Shows some storms down here in the western Arkansas. Not saying this is exactly where the storms are going to be, but we get into the Monday evening, explosive thunderstorms possible all the way up to Iowa, all the way down into the Arklatex. And then we start to get into the middle of the night, Monday night. There's just storms everywhere across the Midwest. And then we start to get into Tuesday morning. Could wake up to a lot of storm and rain activity. Look at that surface low, 998, moving across the Midwest. And then we get into Tuesday. Enhanced risk across areas, the mid to deep south. Just shows a lot of splotches of green, yellow, and orange. And right now, we don't know the true nature of these storms, but it does show just rounds of thunderstorms from Alabama, Mississippi, through the mid-south, all the way up to Indiana and even Ohio. So we could very well get storms into the Carolinas too. And same thing, if we just look at the kinematic environment, wind flow at about 18,000 feet up in the air, the mid-levels. This is a Monday afternoon, just a broad area of flow. Just note that the purplish colors on your screen, purplish blue colors on your screen, that's flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere that supports lifting mechanism for storms. Now we get into Tuesday, deeper flow moves further west. So now we have this, based off the Euro run, 50, 60, 70 knots of mid-level flow. This will really get these storms going, and especially as a cold front drapes down, dipping the jet really increases the flow across this area. And tons of kinematic energy, wind energy, that's going to support the lifting mechanism for these storms. And this will be going across an extremely moist environment. This is Monday afternoon. You see the dew points in the 60s and 70s down here. And then this is getting into the overnight hours. But you'll notice into Tuesday, watch how the air mass begins to get beat down in Missouri. I think we're going to have a powerful cold front that moves in across the eastern U.S. late next week, just going to wipe out any severe weather chances. But we got multiple days out ahead of us to deal with. This is Tuesday afternoon. You got this corridor of moist air and the dew points in the 70s, 60s, just a lot of moist air that's going to support severe weather. So that's an update on that. That's 40 minutes deep. Man, I am hungry. I am ready for some breakfast. Man, my stomach is growling. But let's read a little bit in the Bible here, do a quick devotion. This morning, we are in Matthew's chapter 5, verse 4. And I think this was appropriate for what unfolded last night with the tornadoes and the severe weather across areas of the country. But this verse is, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Short and sweet. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. That's Matthew chapter 5, verse 4. So the first part of that, it says, blessed are those who mourn. I think, it acknowledges that heartbreak and sadness are relevant in today's world. They've been relevant since, the beginning of times, guys. I mean, that's just part of living life. There's a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot of bad emotions that we feel for terrible things that can happen in life. And, in Scripture, it acknowledges that. The second part of it is, for they will be comforted. Okay? For they will be comforted. And I wrote down, if you seek Him during these times, you will be blessed through it. Now, I know that's easier said than done. I totally get that, because somebody could be just going through something very small that's completely ruined their day or week. And then some people could be going through some very terrible things, like the loss of a loved one, a loss of a child. But we're called to come and seek Him, go to Him in prayer, talk to Him like He's your best friend beside you in the car, speak to Him. We're called to go to Him to be comforted. And I think what it means when it says you will be blessed, well, what I'm trying to say here when I say you will be blessed through it, because it says blessed are those who mourn. Okay, so not that I say, it says it in Scripture. Sorry, got a little off track there. Like I said, it's tough when you go 40 minutes deep into a video and go right into a Bible scripture here. But it says, in the Scripture, it says, blessed are those who mourn. So this is the way I take it is, you're going to get blessed through those hard times you go through. Now, it's even hard for me to imagine, I guess, and I'm just speaking as just a person that goes through things also, but it certainly is difficult to see how you could get blessed out of something as horrible as losing everything that you got, losing a loved one, losing a child. And I know I keep bringing that up, but to me, one of my biggest fears, and what would be one of my ultimate test of faith, is if I lost one of my little girls. It really would. It just brings a nasty chill down my back just thinking about it. But what I really think it means by you'll be blessed for it is, if you really go to Him, seek His comfort through it all, He's going to open your eyes to the other side of it. And what that other side of it is, I don't know. It just depends on the situation you're going through. I know that my pastor at my church lost his son, I think in the low 20s. And this was only about 5 or 6, 7 years ago, I believe. And he is the leader of our church. So, I look at him for strength for something like that. And, people are going through some pretty terrible things right now in Kentucky and surrounding states with the tornadoes. So just go to him, and how you view it once you get past it could end up being the blessing, and how it could somehow positively change your life. And in the moment of going through that difficult time, maybe you don't see it like that, but it ends up being like that. And ultimately it will, if you trust in him and have faith. And I'll leave it with this. It's easy for me to sit here and say this because I'm not going through anything terrible right now. And I haven't lost a child. I haven't lost a wife or a husband, or, speaking on a wife losing a husband. But, there is somehow a brighter side of it. God works in mysterious ways. So trust him, lean on him, and allow him to comfort him, and he will bless you for it. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Appreciate y'all. Please stay safe today, and I'll have another video tonight. God bless.